There is a strange habit we have, as people, a tendency to walk past the simple, open door and instead search for a hidden key to a lock that isn't there. We seem to believe that a difficult problem must have an equally difficult solution. We are drawn to the complicated, the technical, the thing that requires a manual. I saw this happen once in a small office. A team of about 12 people worked there. They were good at their jobs, but they had a simple problem. They kept accidentally working on the same tasks, while other important tasks were forgotten. One person would spend a day writing a report, only to find out a coworker had already written it. It was a waste of time and energy. The simple solution was obvious. They could have held a 10-minute meeting every morning to say what they were working on. Or they could have put a large whiteboard on the wall and written their tasks down for everyone to see. The problem would be solved in an afternoon. But that is not what they did. Instead, their manager announced that they had purchased a new software program. It was a powerful, expensive workflow optimization platform. The name itself sounded important. It promised to connect everyone and everything. It had dozens of features, from internal messaging to progress trackers to automated reports. The first week was spent in training sessions, learning how to use the software. The program was confusing. Buttons were hidden in strange menus. Simple actions required multiple clicks. The second week, they tried to actually use it for their work. The software had bugs. It would crash. Messages would get lost. By the end of the month, the team was more confused than ever. They now had two problems. They still didn't know who was working on what, and they had to spend an hour every day fighting with a program that was meant to help them. They walked right past the open door. They chose the complicated lock. This story isn't just about one office. It's about all of us. We have a deep, quiet, and often harmful attraction to complexity. We see a complicated solution, and we assume it must be better. We believe it must be more serious, more intelligent than a simple one. This bias costs us. It costs us money, it costs us time, and it costs us our peace of mind. It has created a kind of cult around itself, the cult of complexity. This is a story about that cult. It's about why we join it, who profits from it, and how we can find our way out. To understand why we fall into this trap, we first have to look at what complexity seems to offer us. In our world, simple feels cheap, complex feels valuable. This thinking starts with how we see other people, especially experts. Imagine you feel sick. You go to two different doctors. The first doctor examines you and says, "You have a common cold. Go home, get some rest, and drink plenty of water. You will feel better in a few days." The second doctor examines you, looks at your chart with a serious expression, and says, "You are presenting with the classic symptoms of acute viral nasopharyngitis. It's most likely an infection from the rhinovirus family. I am prescribing a regimen of cellular recuperation and advanced hydration." Both doctors gave you the exact same advice. But who sounds smarter? Who sounds more like an expert you can trust? For many of us, it's the second doctor. The complex language, the technical terms, they act as a signal. The signal says, "I have special knowledge that you do not. I am an authority." We see this everywhere. The financial advisor who presents you with a plan full of complicated charts and strange acronyms seems more brilliant than the one who says, "Spend less than you earn and put the rest in a simple fund." The lawyer who writes a 10-page contract in dense, unreadable language seems more professional than one who writes a 2-page agreement in plain English. Complexity creates an aura of intelligence. It separates the expert from the average person. But it also does something else. It makes us, the audience, feel smart too. When we finally manage to understand a complicated idea, we get a little jolt of satisfaction. We feel like we've been let into a secret. We are no longer on the outside. We are part of the small group of people who get it. This feeling is a powerful reward. It's like solving a difficult puzzle. Once we feel it, we want to feel it again. So we start to seek out more complexity. We choose the book with the academic language. We watch the video full of technical jargon. We become suspicious of anything that seems too easy to understand. We think, if everyone can understand it, how valuable can it be? We start to believe that the key to knowledge is always hidden, never sitting right in front of us. Complexity stops being a sign of expertise and becomes a goal in itself. We start to see simple as boring and complicated as interesting. We are no longer just looking for answers. We are looking for a challenge that makes us feel intelligent. But there is a deeper, more personal reason we run toward complexity. We often use it as a shield. Simple solutions can be frightening because a simple solution often points directly at us. It points at our behavior, our fears, and our responsibilities. Think about the goal of being physically healthy. For most people, the simple solution has been known for centuries: eat good food and move your body. It is simple, but it is not easy. It requires discipline. It requires us to admit that our own daily choices are the main cause of our problems. It asks us to change our behavior day after day. That can be a hard thing to face. So, we look for a complex solution instead. We find a diet with 17 specific rules about what time to eat and which foods can't be on the same plate. Or we buy an expensive piece of exercise equipment that promises to solve our problems with just 10 minutes a day. Or we get into biohacking, buying special supplements and gadgets that promise a shortcut to health. These complex solutions do something very important. They shift the focus away from our own behavior and onto an external system. We are no longer working on ourselves. We are following the diet's rules. We are using the machine. We are taking the supplements. And if the complex system doesn't work, it is the system that has failed, not us. It's a shield. We can say, that diet wasn't for me, or the machine wasn't as good as they said. It feels safer than saying, I did not have the discipline to stick with it. This pattern appears in all parts of our lives. A relationship between two people might be struggling. The simple solution is for them to sit down and talk honestly about their feelings and fears, but that is terrifying. It's vulnerable. So instead, they might choose a complex path. They might read a dozen books on relationship theory or try to analyze each other's personality type. This feels safer. It turns a scary emotional problem into an interesting intellectual puzzle. They are so busy with the puzzle that they never have to do the simple, frightening thing. Complexity is a wonderful place to hide. It allows us to feel like we are working hard on a problem without ever having to face the simple, uncomfortable truth at its center. This leads to an even stranger habit. We will sometimes reject a perfectly good solution for one reason: we don't like where it came from. Psychologists call this solution aversion. The idea is simple. If a solution to a problem clashes with our beliefs or our identity, we will try to ignore it. We will pretend it doesn't exist. Instead, we will search for a different solution that is far more complicated and less effective, but one that doesn't challenge how we see the world. Let's imagine a large city with a terrible traffic problem. The roads are clogged every morning and every evening. A team of engineers studies the problem for a year. They conclude that the simplest, cheapest, and fastest way to fix the traffic is to build more dedicated lanes for city buses. Their data shows it would take thousands of cars off the road. Now, imagine the leaders of this city have a very strong belief. They believe that personal cars are a symbol of freedom and success. The idea of replacing cars with buses feels like a step backward to them. The solution: more buses clashes with their worldview, so they reject it. They might not even say why. They just call the bus plan unrealistic. Instead, they propose their own solution. Maybe it's a plan to build a massive, expensive tunnel under the city. Or maybe it's a high-tech smart grid of traffic lights that costs a fortune and will take 10 years to build. Their solutions are incredibly complex and expensive. They may not even work, but they do one thing perfectly. They allow the city leaders to solve the traffic problem without ever having to challenge their belief in cars. They are averse to the simple solution. This isn't about whether buses are better than tunnels. It is about the mechanism inside our minds. A deeply held belief can act like a blindfold. It can make us unable to see a simple answer that is right in front of our face. So we are forced to invent complicated answers to get around it. We will tie ourselves in knots to avoid admitting that a simple idea, especially one from a source we don't like, might be right. The more we disagree with the source of an answer, the more complex and inefficient our own preferred answer is likely to become. We would rather be complicated and wrong than simple and corrected. This human bias for the complex is so predictable that entire industries have been built to take advantage of it. These industries don't sell products. They sell complexity itself. Think of the productivity guru. This is a person who has discovered the secret to being effective. Their secret, when you look closely, is usually a very simple idea. Ideas like, make a list of things you need to do, or focus on your most important task first, or break a big project into small steps. These are ideas that have been known for generations. They are simple and they work, but you cannot build an industry on simple advice that everyone already knows. So, the guru takes the simple idea and wraps it in layers of complication. Making a list becomes a proprietary, life-structuring matrix. Focusing on your most important task becomes the priority ascension method. The simple idea is given a fancy name and turned into a system. This system has unique rules, special planners you have to buy, and a multi-part online course that costs hundreds of dollars. The complexity is the product. People are not paying for the simple idea at the core. They are paying for the feeling of being initiated into a secret system. They are paying for the complicated charts and the special language. They are paying for a solution that feels like it must be powerful because it is so complex. We see the same pattern in the wellness industry. The simple advice for a healthy life is cheap and available to everyone. Get good sleep, eat real food, spend time with people you care about, go for a walk. But an industry cannot profit from that. So, simple truths are made complicated. Getting good sleep is turned into a complex sleep hygiene protocol that requires blackout curtains, special sound machines, and a sleep tracker that gives you a score every morning. Eating real food is replaced by expensive powdered supplements, detox cleanses, and restrictive diets that label common foods as toxic. The industry takes what is free and simple, makes it complicated and proprietary, and then sells it back to us at a high price. This pattern even exists at the highest levels of business. Large companies will pay consulting firms millions of dollars for advice. A team of consultants will spend months interviewing employees and analyzing data. At the end, they produce a 200-page report filled with complex charts and dense business jargon. The conclusion of the report is often something the company's own employees already knew. Something simple, like, the marketing and sales departments need to communicate better. The company did not pay millions of dollars for that simple truth. It paid for the complexity that surrounded it. It paid for a report that looked so official and so intelligent that it gave them the confidence to act on an obvious idea. This love of complication doesn't just come from outside experts. We create it ourselves, inside our own organizations. It has a name: bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is what happens when simple processes become needlessly complex over time. Every organization starts with a simple goal. But as it grows, it adds rules and procedures. Each rule seems like a good idea at the time, but after years and years, the organization is buried under the weight of its own complexity. Imagine a new employee who needs a new office chair. The simple process would be to tell their manager, who then gets them a chair. In a complex bureaucracy, the process is different. The employee must first find the correct form, a 5-page document called the Ergonomic Asset Request Form. They must fill it out and get a signature from their direct manager. Then, they must get a second signature from the head of their department. Then, the form must be sent to the facilities department, but only during the second week of the fiscal quarter. The facilities department will then review the request, and in 4 to 6 weeks, a chair will be delivered. None of these steps were created to be evil. They were probably added one by one, each for a reason that made sense at the time. But the end result is a system that is slow, confusing, and frustrating. The complexity does not serve the goal of getting someone a chair. It serves the system itself. It also protects the people inside it. When the process is this complicated, no single person is responsible. A decision is not made by a person. It is made by the process. It is a way to avoid responsibility. Along with this complexity of process, there is a complexity of language. Large organizations often develop their own internal jargon. This is a language of buzzwords and acronyms that is meant to make work sound more important and scientific than it really is. It is a language where you don't use your skills. You leverage your core competencies. You don't do what you learned. You action the key learnings. You don't work together. You synergize in a cross-functional paradigm. This language does two things. First, it acts as a gatekeeper. If you understand the jargon, you are part of the in-group. If you don't, you are an outsider. It creates a sense of belonging for those on the inside. Second, it obscures meaning. It makes simple ideas sound profound. It can also make bad ideas sound acceptable. Downsizing our workforce is a harsh, clear phrase. Optimizing our human capital resources is a vague, sterile phrase that means the same thing, but it feels less real. It's a language designed to hide, not to clarify. It is the official language of the cult of complexity. This bias for the complex feels like an unbreakable habit. It seems to be built into our psychology and our systems. But it is not. We can learn to see it, and once we see it, we can learn to choose a different path. The way out is not a new, complex system. It is a very old and simple tool. It comes from a philosopher who lived over 700 years ago. His name was William of Occam. He had a principle that became so famous it was named after him. It is called Occam's razor. The principle is this: when you are faced with competing explanations for something, the one that requires the fewest assumptions is usually the correct one. Put more simply, the simplest explanation is often the best. The razor is a tool for shaving away all the unnecessary parts of an argument. It cuts through the complexity to find the simple truth underneath. Imagine you are at home at night and the power goes out. You could assume that a team of international spies has sabotaged the city's power grid to create a distraction for their secret mission. Or, you could assume that a strong wind knocked a tree branch onto a power line. The spy theory requires a huge number of assumptions. You have to assume there are spies, that they have a mission, that they need a distraction, and that sabotaging the power grid is their method. The tree branch theory requires only one assumption: there was a strong wind. Occam's razor tells us to shave away the spies and look at the tree branch. This is not just for power outages. It is a powerful tool for thinking about any problem. When you are presented with a complex solution, you can use the razor. Ask yourself, what are the assumptions here? How many leaps of faith am I being asked to make? Is there a simpler explanation that requires fewer leaps? The doctor who diagnoses you with acute viral nasopharyngitis is asking you to assume that this is a specific, complicated condition. The doctor who says you have a common cold is making fewer assumptions. The productivity guru with the complex matrix is asking you to assume that their secret system is the key to success. The simpler idea, that you just need to write things down, requires no such assumption. Occam's razor doesn't guarantee the right answer every time. Some problems in the world are genuinely complex, but the razor protects us from adding complexity where it doesn't belong. It is a constant reminder to search for the simple, direct answer first. It is a tool for fighting back against the cult of complexity. Using a tool like Occam's razor is not a one-time fix. It is the beginning of a new skill. It is the skill of actively seeking simplicity. This is not a skill that comes naturally to many of us. We have to practice it. It is not about finding a new life hack or a new system. It is about learning to ask a new set of questions when we face a problem. The first question is, what is the most direct, straight-line path from this problem to its solution? This question forces us to ignore the winding, scenic routes of complexity. If the problem is a messy garage, the straight-line path is to spend a Saturday cleaning it. The complex path is to spend weeks researching storage systems, buying special containers, and watching videos about organization theory. We must always look for the straight line first. The second question is the complexity in the problem itself, or is it in the solution I am considering? Some problems really are difficult. Understanding a disease is complex. Building a bridge is complex. But often, the problem is simple, and we are the ones choosing a complex solution. We must learn to separate the two. Is the problem truly that my team is unproductive? Or is the problem simply that we don't talk to each other enough? The third question is the most personal. It is, am I choosing this complicated path to avoid a simple but uncomfortable action? This requires honesty. Am I really researching a new diet because I think it's better? Or am I doing it to avoid the simple, difficult work of eating better and exercising? Am I buying this new software because we need it, or because I want to avoid having a difficult conversation with a coworker? This question helps us see when we are using complexity as a shield. And a final, powerful question is, could I explain this solution to a 10-year-old? If you cannot explain your chosen solution in simple terms, there is a good chance you do not truly understand it yourself. Albert Einstein is said to have remarked, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. This is a test for clarity. If our solution is tangled in jargon and buzzwords, it's a sign that we may be lost in complexity. Practicing these questions helps build a new habit of mind. It trains us to be suspicious of complexity and to value clarity. It is the slow, steady work of becoming a person who sees the open door and decides to walk through it. The world is, in many ways, a very complex place. The goal is not to become simplistic. It is not to pretend that every difficult problem has an easy answer. Some problems require deep expertise and sophisticated tools. A simple solution to a truly complex problem is just a wrong answer. The real goal is wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to tell the difference. It is the ability to look at a problem and see it for what it is. Is this problem truly complex, like understanding the human brain? Or has it just been made complex, like a bureaucratic form for ordering a new chair? Seeing this difference is a kind of quiet superpower. It allows you to step outside the cult of complexity. You can hear the jargon and not be impressed. You can see the complicated system and ask what simple problem it is trying to solve. You are no longer a consumer of complexity. You become a seeker of clarity. This journey frees up our most valuable resource, our own attention. Every minute we spend fighting with confusing software, or trying to understand a guru's weird system, or navigating a bureaucratic maze, is a minute we are not spending on our work, our families, or the things that matter to us. The cult of complexity feeds on our attention. It drains our energy with things that look important, but are often just noise. By learning to value the simple, the clear, and the obvious, we reclaim that energy. We save it for the problems that are truly worth our time. We save it for our lives.